hello, this is Peter Combs from Bidamount.com and B.O. Combs Asian Art in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And today is Friday, January 27th, a couple days after Christmas. I hope everybody had a great holiday. If you took the day off, I hope you did. And had your family over and had a great meal and did all kinds of nice things for the day. And maybe you're continuing. A lot of people are on vacation this week. So if you are, great. I hope you take it off right through next weekend, because New Year's is in the middle of the week next week. So why bother going back to work at all? Okay. This is, let's see here. This is something we've done this week. We added these. We've been finishing up and getting ready to launch the global auction pages. We've been talking about it now for a month and a half. And the reason we didn't launch it sooner, frankly, is there was so little stuff on Live Auctioneers and Invaluable and BidSquare by the time we got it done about 10 days ago. There was no really any reason to solicit your attention at that time, because most of the big auction houses, all the big ones, are all sort of on break. They're not doing much. They're sort of doing office things. And Live Auctioneers, Invaluable, BidSquare, all of those companies, there wasn't much on there. We went and looked a bunch of times in the last 10 days, and everybody's holding off until we start getting closer to the new year, and then we're going to launch it, because there'll be a lot of stuff, I suspect, coming online in the next week and a half. So look for us to make an announcement and a video for the global auction pages starting around the 5th or the 6th somewhere. We did a blog on it this week, estimating the 5th, which is on a Sunday, a week from this Sunday. It'll be somewhere in that time period. The other thing that we've done is that we've begun adding, it was funny because I got a call from somebody who was interested in a bowl that was in the Pandolfini sale this week, and we had just downloaded this catalog. There was a Ming bowl that somebody asked me about that was in this sale, and it ended up selling for $1.5 million. Here it is. All right. He asked me what I thought of this, and there wasn't enough time to get more photos, so he couldn't participate in it. But it was estimated at $3,000 to $5,000, and the bowl bought $1.5 million. All right. So you never know. Okay, and this is a nice catalog. They had some other good things, lots of good things in here. Pandolfini is a well-established company in Italy, and there's also on here, we're going to be adding catalogs. We'll have stuff on here from Woolley & Wallace, and if they're not selling on Live Auctioneers and Invaluable, we may set up just a separate page to get people to the sales that are not using the more traditional auction outlets for presenting. Not all of them do. Some of them just auction through their own site. All right, but we have the 3 Pandolfini catalogs up, the Van Hams over in Cologne, Germany, and Augutz, which is a very good auction house. And there's others too, so we'll get to them. All right, so if you come over this, you'll see the Pandolfini catalog, the other Pandolfini catalog, Augutz and Van Ham, and so forth. All right, so just to bring you up to date on what's happening on the site. All right, and this was last week's eBay and Catawiki newsletter. We had a second video on there that we did about a sale that's taking place over at Catawiki, sort of a specialized sale that had some very good things in it, very unusual Buddhist market, Chunlung stem cup. Has a repair to it, some repairs and things, but a very rare type. One of them sold not long ago for about $150,000, and there's some nice bronzes and other things on there. So check it out. It closes in a few days, and we'll show some more pictures at the end of the video. But moving on to last week's eBay auction result is this. This was sold as a Thai porcelain Ben Jarong a covered bowl. I don't think it was. I think this was Chinese famille rose. It wasn't made in Thailand. I think it was made in China. And it was made for the Indian market. All right, you see plates done in this pattern, this same pattern, big plates, late 18th century plates. And here's a picture of the foot rim on it, very typical 18th century foot rim, clearly from that time period. Had some flex to the enamels, has these nice, heavy, early original brass rims applied to them, because these bowls were very prone to cracking. And this keeps the crack from growing too much. And it ended up selling for $760 with a couple of hairlines, which is a pretty good price for that. But it was a nice bowl. It was about 6.5, 7 inches in diameter. And then we had this famille rose medallion bottle vase. Typically, these had stoppers in them. They were meant to fit in basins to put on nightstands. These were made solely for the export market, and they would come in sets, wash sets. They had covered soap dishes and all that sort of thing. All right, and this was a nice one, and it ended up selling for $600 on the nose, which is right about where they typically sell. It had 46 bids, and it was being sold by Win Asian. He's only got 7 feedbacks. So it's a new seller out in Las Vegas, Nevada. All righty. And then this, the silver dragon box jewelry casket, late 19th century example, but beautifully done. And this comes from Ancient Arts. He's a good seller over in the Netherlands. You know his stuff when you see it because he always has peaches in it, which I like the additional color, and it does give you a sense of size. All right, but this was a nice thing, and it had an agate stone finial on the handle, which was nice, and it went for $1,105. And then on to this. This, I think, ended up being one of the really great buys of the week. If you like unusual export porcelain in very unusual patterns, this is one of them. All right, this is a later 19th century example, but this radiating pattern with sort of a skin tone ground and then filled in with blue spiraling floral enamel work going out to the edges. Really nice. This plate was about 14.5 inches in diameter. Very unusual pattern, highly unusual. It looked spectacular on a wall, and somebody stole it. Somebody got a great buy, $255. All right. It was a very unusual bowl. It was not especially early, but highly unusual for its pattern. Very unusual. And think about this pattern. If you ever see it again, let me know. I'm curious to know more about this one because this is not a pattern I've really seen before. I've seen similar, but not quite like this one, and it's very interesting. All right, and then on to this. This is the Femi-Vert Kangxi style rouleau vase. Nice big one. This was not a Kangxi example. It was made later in the late 19th century, but beautifully done. Very nice enamels and very tightly drawn. And that's one of the things with these later porcelains is the drawing often is much tighter and has a different, the enamels are much more even. You don't see these areas of translucency to denser enamels that you saw in the Kangxi pieces. There was more variation, for example, in just yellow. The yellow could go from nearly watery yellow translucent all the way up to sort of a dense egg yolk color, all in the same field where it was used, depending on how thickly the enameler applied his stuff. All right, but this was beautifully done. It was a nice vase, and it ended up selling for $1,299. Had no damage, and that was a good buy. All right, Christmas week, just so you know, you plan ahead a little bit. Between now and New Year's, if you're looking online, leave bids because there's less traffic on eBay right now. There's less people looking. People are on vacation, and there's less stuff up, so less people are looking, and so on. So if you do a little extra work, you might get yourself some things that 40-50% off what you'd expect at other parts of the year. All right, and then on to this, the Noyonya Straits set of bowls and so forth with spoons. This was sort of unusual that somebody would put up all of these at once. There's a lot, all right? And these were nice examples, late 19th and early 20th century pieces, all right? And this was a group, and it included, let's see here, bowls and plates and so forth, 7 pieces total. All right, and the whole thing went for $2,259, which is very reasonable. I think this was a mistake by the seller. He should have put them up individually. I think he would have done considerably better, but that's the way it goes. And then on to this. This was a very unusual plate. What was interesting about this was it has a lot of the rim decoration, this lotus pattern around here, this honeycomb pattern up here, the shape of the saucer, the shape of the bowl itself. Most people looked at it and said, oh, it's an 18th century plate. And what's interesting about this is it isn't. It's a 19th century plate with a Daoguan mark on it, and it looks to be a Marcan period Daoguan dish. From what I can see, there's the foot rim on it. Looks fine to me as Daoguan. And here's the rim. But it's interesting how closely it looks to a piece that was made, 75 years, the style of painting that was done 75 years early. Here you are with something made between 1820, 25, and 1850, and it looks just like 18th century porcelain. Something to keep in mind, okay? They didn't necessarily change gears on how pots were thrown and how porcelain was enameled much between the 1700s and the mid 1800s. Everything sort of went along in many cases just as it always had. All right, so there it is. And this went very reasonably for a marked piece that is, in my opinion, from the period, $276, I think was a terrific buy. It was sold by the Thrifty Gifty Company, whoever they are. They're out in the UK. All right. Nice thing. That was a nice plate, though. Very pretty and interesting. And then on to this. Silver. Silver did just fine this week. Of course, it's Christmas. People buy silver. This was another it was a vase put up by Ancient Arts, the folks that had the dragon form cassoni, a little jewelry casket. This was a nice one with figural relief work on it, stamped on the bottom, 19th century. And it ended up selling for $2,313, which I think was a nice buy. It was a very attractive vase, a good size. And then on to this. Some of you remember this. This was the very unusual silk ball decorated ground plate that was sold a couple of weeks ago, and it went for about $700 or so. And for whatever reason, and I don't know why, the buyer didn't pay for it, and they relisted it. There was some dispute about whether it's Famille Rose or Femme Vert. It's Famille Rose, and but I can see why people would say it's Femme Vert because it has a dominant green palette. But technically it's Famille Rose. And this was a wonderful dish. And somebody got it, I think, for a good buy, $623. And this was the money. This is an outfit that sells this is a hospice outfit over in the UK in Portsmouth. And this was something they'd been donated and they were selling to raise for hospice. So I hope one of you out there bought it. All right. People from the Bidamount community like to do good things for other people, right? Yes. Okay. Now, on to this, the 18th century export bowl or small punch bowl. It's a very nice bowl. It's a fairly stock pattern. It's one, if you've been collecting for any length of time, you've seen it many, many times. You've seen it on sets. You've seen it on bowls. You've seen it on teapots. But the quality of decoration is quite good. The figures are very nicely defined. The background mountain scenes are sort of done vaguely, like, you give a sense of depth. They're trailing off in a very nice bowl. And it went very reasonably, $168. Now, it had a couple of little hairlines on the rim, but they weren't significant, but the fellow mentioned them anyway, and it may have scared some people off. But that was a good buy. It was a nice punch bowl and very fine quality. All right. It's interesting. The other day I had, just as an aside, had an interesting conversation with a fellow who's pretty involved with going back and forth in China. And he said that, it's interesting over there, you never see export porcelain in China because none of it was kept there. And as such, the Chinese buyers are many of them are almost unaware of it or have no understanding of it because the sellers in China don't want them buying Chinese export. They want them buying Chinese domestic wares because that's what they have to sell. And I think it's a valid point. And if Chinese porcelain collectors in the mainland ever really do some checking on fine 18th century export pieces, they're going to start buying them because a lot of the places that made really fine export porcelain also fulfilled orders for the Imperial Palace. The same decorators that did certain export pieces also had experience working on Imperial pieces when orders came in. If they were more than the Imperial kiln could handle, they had an edict that they could require any kiln, the kiln director of the Imperial kiln could require any kiln director of a nearby kiln to pick up the slack and make the rest of the pieces that they're unable to fulfill to their standards. And it's sort of an interesting dynamic. And not many people talk about that in China, but it was an edict that I think it was the Kangxi Emperor first put in place. So at any rate, so someday cross your fingers if they ever start buying the export porcelain the way they buy the domestic porcelain, it's going to get very expensive. All right, and then on to this. This was a really nice bit of Chinese sort of a military-looking suit, nice quality, later 19th century, but very fine quality. And it ended up selling for $2,135 with all those pieces, and I think that was a dandy buy. Okay, and now on to this. The ivory carved armrest. This was a very interesting piece. This was a really, really fine piece, too. And it hadn't closed last week when I did the video, and I mentioned it. I said, I'll try to circle back and remember to add it because I thought it was just such a nice example. And this, it really was pretty. It's carved front and carved back with the sun and the clouds and the waves and all that business. And in the end, it brought $6,388. All right. Now, they're not eligible to ship these out of the U.S. unless they can manage to get a CITES permit for it, which is very difficult. But maybe somebody in the U.S. bought it and it can be shipped. Curiously, they did sell this in California where it's illegal, but oh well, that's the way it goes. Now, let's take a look. That was about all there was for the week, by the way. There wasn't a lot of stuff. As some of you noticed, I got an email from somebody, boy, there's not a lot for sale this week. And I said, no, everybody's going away just like we were. All right. But there's quite a bit of stuff coming. There'll be some good things coming up this week. And one of the pieces, I saw this get listed last night. These are great. A pair of covered barrel form blanc de chine jars with prunus branches and great masks. This is a really nice, there's the mask. Love the mask on that. The symmetry, the smile, the eyes, the brows, the whole bit. Just beautiful quality. Here it is, there. These are really nice, okay? And this is a very rare type. It's how did he date it? I don't forget. He dated his 19th century. I think it's older than that, to be honest with you. It's a beautiful, beautiful pair of covered pots. They're about 9 inches tall, and I think they should do very well. If you can buy these for under $2,500, you got a steal on your hands, okay? Those are really nice. All right, now over to this. This is just a look at Catawiki right now. There's a bunch of stuff up there. It's all come on in the last day. All right, and one of them is this Martindale Chinese art auction. These are things that are being sold by William Martindale. He's a dealer over in the UK. I know him. In full disclosure, I know Will Martindale, and he's a hell of a nice guy. And he's been working diligently. He went to the Sotheby's School. He's got good taste, and he doesn't make up stories about his pieces. He tells you what they are. And he's got a number of them on here right now. Good cloisonne. And if you want to have a better look, go back and see the video we did last week on his listing. There's about 29 items, some really good pieces. This little russet jade pebble, lotus, carp and lotus, is sort of languishing here. I threw a bid on it when it first went up. It says I've been outbid. I think I put $100 on it just to give it a push. That ought to bring 10 times what it's bringing right now. It's a heck of a nice piece of jade. All right, and then over here, Shangri-La Antiques, they have a private auction going on. You can get to it. It doesn't mean you can't use it. Over on Catawiki as well. And if you don't know them, they're the same sellers on eBay. Their seller name is the Ceramics and Collectibles. And they have a lot on there, too. And they're always in the newsletter. And they're now branching out and starting to list more and more things on Catawiki. All right, and I think they're sort of seeing which is the better market for them, which is a wise thing to do when you have as much to sell as they do. All right, and one of the things I noticed particularly was this really nice Japanese Arita, late 17th century pot. Beautiful piece, really is. Nice piece of Arita. And we'll see how that does. It probably has a reserve on it, but beautiful example. And I don't think the reserve will be crazy. But that's a nice piece, all right? And then on to this nice Kangxi bowl, deep dark blue cobalt with a rather unusual pattern. This is a 6-inch bowl, and this closes in 8 days. This is one of the pieces that just came on. Once Christmas went by, this came on, and this is closing this week. This is a piece of porcelain from the Hatcher Cargo. It's one of those reticulated sidewall bowls. You've seen them. They're like double bowl. There it is. All right, and apparently this provenance is back to the Hatcher Cargo. And it's got 8 days to go, and it has no bids yet, so check that out. All right, and then on to this. This is the stem cup that I mentioned before that had the repair. This Chin Lung, a similar one sold for $100 and something thousand at Christie's not long ago. This one has little repairs to it and whatnot. It's a good piece, and he also has up this very nice big Republic vase, 17 inches tall. It's got some, I think it's got some repairs to it, but it's a nice, good-looking piece. See how that does. And then this is on there. This is a very famous pattern. This isn't one of Will's, but this is a piece being sold on Catawiki, and it is a design that originated with Cornelius Pronk, who was, as many of you know, a highly influential character in Chinese art, and a lot of things were modeled after his work for the export market. This is called The Doctor's Visit, and a number of them have been on the market over the years. Now let's take a look. Rob Michaels had one a while ago. that ended up selling for 3,825 pounds. I'm mentioning this just as a guide in case you're looking at it, because there is a reserve on that. Here's another one that had some enamel wear and loss. I checked this one out because the price seemed very low. Went for 1,750, but a lot of the enamels were missing off the faces of the characters. And here is another pair of them that sold for $6,875 just earlier this year. Okay, so that'll give you some idea what to expect this to be selling for. It's up to $1,222. Get a condition report on it if you want. Check it out. And if you have time to get a condition report, when does this close? It closes tomorrow. Maybe you don't have time for a condition report. It's on here. Only a hairline crack, entirely undamaged otherwise. Okay, that's pretty definitive. So what is it worth? Probably $2,500 to $3,500, I would guess. But it's a heck of a nice thing, and I don't know what the reserve is, but check it out anyway. It's a good-looking thing, and it's a pronk piece, so highly desirable among collectors. Okay, and that's it. That's it for the week. Sort of a short video this week. Well, not that short. We're still at 20 minutes, but that's it for the week, and we'll be doing a bunch of things next week, getting ready to get the global pages out, and we have other things going on here toward the end of the year that I have to tend to. But that's it. And if you haven't subscribed to us yet here on YouTube, please do hit the notification bell when a new video comes up. They'll let you know right away. And as always, the videos are hosted also through the newsletter page. So if you haven't joined the newsletter page yet, do it. That is free. That's going to remain free. That's something we just do. I love doing it. All righty. Have a wonderful week and a weekend, and we'll be back next week. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.